and that's kind of I gave that information to some other people who are having the same problem, because I told them, you know, take a picture with your phone and then use that phone to upload it. And actually Megan did that. Megan's right, she's here too, and that seemed to work. So thank you for troubleshooting that, because we were having problems figuring out how to do that. Are there any other questions you guys have about the exam?
Question.
Uh-huh.
So what is the code for the quiz I have to take it? The quiz.
It's called
What is the code?
Test of Proctorio. Because we're
The code?
Test of Proctorio, that's the one for you to test your Proctorio and make sure that your Proctorio works.
Okay, but they told me to put a access code.
Nope. Okay, so did you see my email earlier today? If you'll get that, it'll ask you for an access code if you are doing one of the following things. One, you need to be using Chrome, the Chrome browser. Two, you need to download the extension, the Proctorio extension for your Chrome browser, and enable it. And that's what most people are not doing, is they're not downloading that Proctorio extension for the Chrome browser and enabling it. And then the third thing is, if you're not using a PC or a Mac, then it'll give you a problem. Like if you're using a Chromebook or if you're using an iPad, then it won't allow that either. You can't use an iPad or a Chromebook.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And also, I think it seems like it's wanting people to have like at least 2 gigabytes of memory. So you need to use a computer that has at least 2 gigabytes of RAM, which most of them, if they're like, you know, in the last 6 or 7 years, do. But if not, then you know, then they might not. And if that's the case, then talk to people and try to figure something out. Oh, yeah. And Haley mentioned something that, right, so if you're running stuff, like right before I started doing these sessions, I had to restart my computer, because if I restart my computer, it resets all my RAM. So all the stuff that I was doing that was burning up RAM, it will wipe it if you restart it. Don't turn it off and turn it on again. You have to actually physically restart the computer. There's a little, here, I'll show you. Hopefully you guys can see it. So I click on the Start menu, and if I go here, there's this option to restart. I'm not going to do it now, but it closes all the apps, turns off the PC, and turns it on again. So that's the one, the restart, not the shutdown, but the restart is the one that will give you more RAM. It'll restart everything and remove all those apps that are not useful. Let's see what we got in the chat here. I have not looked at any of the. I haven't looked at any of the quizzes in the last few hours. I've been, you know, online doing review sessions and everything since 3 o'clock. So
Yeah, I understand.
I've been kind of slammed with that. But if you uploaded it, under quizzes, there's 2 separate quizzes. Remember, there's one to take the quiz, and then there's a second one to upload it, because I didn't want you guys to be under this time crunch, right? I didn't want your time to run out on you, because you only get 2 hours, and it's an hour and 50-minute test, but I'm going to give you 2 hours and 20 minutes to take it, plus another 5 minutes to start it up and scan your area and get your camera kind of set up. And then after that's over, then you'll have, you know, then within like 5 or 10 minutes, make sure you upload that using this second, that second quiz. It's called upload response or something like that. Upload response.
Yeah. I didn't know.
Okay.
I wrote the screenshot.
So then you should be fine. You should be in good shape. Yeah.
I was having trouble with my laptop getting into this. I had it was like 2 feet high in the air, and it was like really hard to read. So I don't know how that's.
Tell me about your webcam.
It's on my laptop. Yeah, it's attached to my laptop.
And you can't tilt it down. You can't tilt your laptop down. A lot of times, like.
I can probably swing it.
Yeah. So you're supposed to tilt it down a little bit. That was the whole point. So I need to be able to see, not a lot. So watch the videos. Remember the last two classes actually, I did a little demo where I showed you to tilt it down just so I can see the tops of your hands a little bit. And it really helps a lot, you guys, to get a couple of thick books and put them down in front of you and move your laptop back. Move your laptop back like 18 inches, a foot and a half, and then put these down so that you can tilt it down a little bit and you can see it better. It'll give you a much better way of viewing this. So I can see things better. So okay.
Professor, on the exam, when we're reading the question, will you grade from the 6 blank sheets, or do we input like the correct answer, the final answer onto the computer?
I will do both. So the answer you put in the computer, I will make sure that that's the same answer you turn into me on the sheet, right?
Okay.
And then I'll grade off the sheet.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it's really all about showing your work. Even if you got the right answer, if you don't show your work, then you're not going to get very much credit. You might only get 70% of the credit if you don't show your work. Actually, if you don't show your work at all, you're going to get less than that. You might get 50%. So it's really important to show your work, right? Show all 5 steps, and draw your picture and all that stuff. So I need all of that. Oh yeah, binder. Right. You can just use your binder, your flat binder. That totally works. That's big enough. Right. So that's a good way of doing it.
If it's on an incline, it'll help a little bit.
Yeah, or you can even throw a book inside of your binder, and that'll prop it up. That'll make it thicker. You know what I'm saying? It'll even it out.
It would. Yeah. I got you.
Yeah. Good deal. All right. So let's start off. Are there any other questions about this before we get going? So the one you're supposed to do today is worth 1 point of your exam. The other 99 points will be, in the exam tomorrow. There are 8 questions, like real questions, and then there's 1 point. There's one extra credit problem, which is worth I think it's worth 2 or 3 points. So technically, there's 9 questions. 1 is extra credit, and 8 real questions, which have hefty stuff, plus the 1 question today, which is only worth 1 point. And the question today was just write down this, copy down the sentence. It's not worth a whole lot, but there you go. Okay. More questions than that?
I have a question for about exam we have tomorrow.
Yeah.
So the link for the exam is going to be through Canvas, or should I have to go to the website and start the exam
Canvas.
from there?
It's through Canvas. So it's exactly like the quiz you did today.
Okay.
So the exam you did today is exactly the same. The only difference is that there's going to be, I'm going to have you type in some answers when you go in there.
Yeah.
So I'll have you, and whenever it says you're in red, you answer in red, then put in that answer, type their answer in there in red also, just so I have it at the time, and then also your paperwork will back that up and you turn in your test. They match up.
Okay. Okay. And I have another question. After I did the quiz, the trial quiz today, I downloaded everything on Chrome, but when I go to Canvas, I'm not able to see the link, where I see like exam secure. I think I forgot the name, but I'm not able to see the link. I don't know why.
What link? Wait, what link?
Which says like here. Let me go check it out. Secure exam proctor. I'm not able to see the link anymore on my Canvas. And I try to go to the website, and when I enable it, then I'm able to see. But when I try to go in there, it's asking me to add more extension. But after that, the link is gone from my Canvas. I don't know why it's happening.
So you're adding the extension in Chrome?
Yeah. Yes.
And then you open Chrome and you go to Are you opening Chrome to go to Canvas?
Yes, I am.
Then I am not sure. No one else has had that problem. That's a unique problem.
Okay.
So, you're opening your Chrome, your Canvas. It's stick around. Has anybody heard of this issue? So you download the extension and you enable the extension?
I'm not really sure if I enable it or not, but when I download the extension, it's like, I'm just not able to see the link.
So you're supposed to download the extension and then you're supposed to install it.
Okay.
And then you have to enable it, I think.
Okay, I'll try to do it
And then
see if it works out.
And then once you do that, it should show up there. If you go back to Canvas, it should be there.
Okay, all right. I'll try to do it like in a couple minutes now. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Are there more questions? Any other questions about these? Trying to think of what the other class asked. Yeah. No? Okay.
If the photo upload for some reason or another doesn't work again, or doesn't work in general for tomorrow, can we message you?
Yeah, email. You can email it to me. If for some reason it doesn't work, then you can just email them to me. The other thing too is if for some reason it kicks you out and you can't get back in, which I think if you do something wrong, like try not to do anything wrong, but if you do something wrong, then I think I might give you one chance to go back in, as long as you go back in right away, like within a couple minutes, go right back in. But if you have something going on, like it crashes on you or something bad happens, then come to our class link, like wherever our Zoom, our regular Zoom classroom link, and I'll be there because I'm going to be proctoring some tests through Zoom for some people who can't get Proctorio working. So you can come in there and you can talk to me there if something bad happens.
Okay.
That's for everybody. So make sure you guys know that. That's your backup. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and start on this. So these first two problems we did in class, right? These are just some. There's 6 more problems that I have for you guys to work on. They are not in the study guide, and so we do not have solutions for them. However, we did this one in class, and we did this one in class also. So those ones are in the BoardWork PDFs for last lecture. We're going to do the other ones, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to do those ones today, and we'll and the BoardWork PDFs are actually already uploaded with the results. If you go to your BoardWork PDFs for chapters 7 through 9, the review session 1 will have this from earlier today. So why don't you guys go ahead and just work on this problem, and we'll give you guys, say, 7 minutes to kind of work on this one, and we'll go over it. All right, so quick question. Is this a proportion or a mean, guys? What kind of problem is this?
Proportion?
Yep.
Oh, no, sorry. It's less proportion, yeah.
Do you guys see the word mean or average in here anywhere?
No.
No, so it's not a mean or it's not a mean, it's a proportion. This is a proportion. Is it a confidence interval or a hypothesis test?
Hypothesis test?
Yep, I'm talking about claims. There's no word estimate or confidence interval in here anywhere. So it is a hypothesis test. All right, so that should hopefully get you guys going. Let's restart it. All right, so first of all, it's a proportion, so easy peasy. We're going to use a z-table, and it's a hypothesis test. So my claim is that more than 25% advertise. So that means that my P is more than 25%. That's my claim. So H naught again is always equal. So P equals 25%, which means that H1 will have to become my claim. P is greater than 0.25. So H1 is my claim. I'm going to use the word support here. And then I'm going to go to my handy dandy t-table. And remember, the very bottom of the t-table is the z-table. And we want, let's see, alpha's 0.05, one-tailed, right, because it's more than, so, or less, more than, so it's right-tailed. Oops. Screw that up. So, right-tailed, one-tailed, 0.05, all the way down. Did I do that right? 1.645. No, sorry, there it is, 1.645. Remember, this bottom row is your z-table. These are the only z-tables you're going to need for z-scores you're going to need for this exam. All right, so it's right-tailed, so it means it's going to be the right side. I'm going to shade to the right, draw my little picture, put in my critical value. And then my p-hat, it's 39 out of 125, so my p-hat's 0.312. Give me 3 sig figs here. Don't round it to 0.31, 3 sig figs. So 0.31, my test stat is 0.31 minus 0.25 over square root of PQ, 0.25 times 0.75 over N, 125. So this is the numerator, this is the denominator, and you'll get 1.602. If you get this range anywhere in here, that's close enough, 1.59 to 1.61, as long as you're showing your work here. And again, don't round this to 0.31. That's not 366. Give me 366. So 1.602, I'm going to put that in here. That's clearly in the not guilty range, right? The do not reject, not enough evidence. So we do not reject H naught. Don't leave this out. A lot of people, what they'll do is they'll put do not reject. If you don't put H naught, you're going to lose a point each time. You have to say what your do not reject what? Your claim? You're not telling me what it is. So this step 4 should always be, H naught should always be written in there. Do not reject H naught. Don't leave that out. You got to write it in there. So then step 5, which is about your claim, since this is do not reject, this is you do not have enough evidence to support the claim, because remember H1's our claim, so we're going to use the word support there. Claim that more than 25% of lawyers advertise. Questions about this one? Yes, you could write do not reject null hypothesis. Null hypo. Yeah, you could write that. You could write null instead of H naught. That's fine. But give me null hypo. Oh, yes. Yeah?
Oh, so, okay, here, I've noticed that we're only doing questions that lead us to an answer like there is enough or there isn't enough evidence to support. Are we going to have anything on the exam that asks us to reject?
Yes, maybe. Yes, you'll have one that will be reject. You'll have one reject and the rest should be support.
So the way we know if it's reject is when the H naught is the claim.
Exactly. When your claim is or are or something along the lines of, it is the same as, or no difference. That's another one. Yeah, whenever your claim is equals. Figure out what your claim is, and then if your claim is equals, then that's your claim is H naught. And I should double check to make sure we only have only one reject. I'm pretty sure I only have one problem in each exam that's like that. Any other questions on this one? Yeah.
This is more of a question for the overall exam. Does the exam mirror more of the practice that we're doing right now on this sheet, or the study guide?
This and the study guide should be the same. The study guide and this there isn't any difference between them, I don't believe. Does anybody think that there is a difference between them? In terms of how I solve it, do this, because the study guide, I'm using kind of old solutions where sometimes I found the p-value, and I used, sometimes I used inverse norm to find stuff. So you don't have to worry about that. You don't need to use inverse norm. Just use the t-table. And you do not need to find the p-value. So we've made a couple changes this semester, and those are, a couple things that we've altered. The critical value, the inverse norm I altered a couple semesters ago, and then... I'm sorry, something about a wallet. What was that? Can you say that again? Someone had a question about a wallet, or included comments about a wallet?
I think she just left her mic on.
Okay, no worries. All right, so then we're going to jump to problem 5 next and do this one. So everybody go ahead and take a few minutes and work on this problem. Okay, so real quick question. Is this a proportion or a mean? Mean, yeah, because you see the word average right there. So it's going to be a t-table, right? Mean, Mr. T. And then hypothesis test or confidence interval. You guys see the word confidence interval or estimate in here anywhere? No, it's a hypothesis test. Good. So it's a mean, but I didn't give you X bar. I gave you a bunch of numbers. I expect you to find X bar. So you got to bust out your calculator. Hopefully this doesn't freeze on me. And you need to put in, do stat, edit, go to your list and type these numbers in. Right? And then double check when you do it to make sure you didn't screw something up. See how I mistyped in 7020? If you double check your answers, because if you screw this up, then everything else is garbage, and you have no idea that it is. So go back here, make sure to double check all your numbers to make sure you have them correct. It's really easy to mistype something. And then once you have them all in there, right, all 8 of them in there, then 83500, then hit stat calc right here, right, stat and then calc to 1 bar stats, and then hit second L1, and that will give you your X bar and your S. This is wrong because I didn't type them all in yet. That'll give you your X bar and your S. All right.
Professor?
Yes.
Quick question. I think you mentioned it before, but what was the trick on clearing all the data from line 1 and line 2? Like, so when you don't go back in, it always has the old data from previous problem.
Yeah. So that's a good one. So that's stat, edit, and then you have to go up so that you're on the L1, and you hit clear enter, and it clears it out. So the clear button and then the enter button.
Perfect.
If you screw this up and you accidentally do this and you delete it, don't do this. But so you deleted it, so now it's gone. Right, my L1's altogether gone altogether. Then you do second memory right here. Go to reset 7, reset, and then go to all memory, and says, "Are you sure?" So it's gonna wipe everything out. Yes, and wipe it all out, and then your list will be back.
Great, thank you.
Sure. While we're at it, someone else had a comment on uploading. They asked, because the uploading is it's separate. It's a separate part of the test, right? I'm giving you guys. It's an hour and 50-minute test. I'm giving you 2 hours and 20 minutes to do it because you have to type in some answers as well. So you got to read it, so it might be a little bit harder. You do not need to write down the problems. So you don't need to copy the problems. All you need to do is show your work to solve them. So don't copy them down in your paper. Just solve them. Does everybody understand what I'm saying? So yeah, it says you do not need to rewrite them. Just look at the problem, solve the problem, show your work. Number them like number 1, and then look at the problem, read the problem, show your work, solve it. But then you got to type in a couple things into the whenever I have a red thing to ask for an answer, you need to type that answer into that box. And so I'm giving you an extra 30 minutes to do that. So I'm giving you 2 hours and 20 minutes for the exam, 5 minutes to scan your area beforehand. And so you have to kind of pick up your laptop kind of and roll it down and kind of show me everything you've got. You might as well do that now real quickly. So say I've got papers down, notes, things like that. Then you will stop sharing so I can show you guys what I'm talking about. So then you just turn your computer down and like show me kind of what you have in front of you, and kind of a little bit this way, a little bit that way, so you can see everything that is I can see everything that you're working with. Okay. Before the exam, when it says to scan the room, that's what I want. It'll make you kind of scan a little bit to the left and to the right, but also go down a little bit and just hold for a second down below, and maybe a little bit to your left and right of there, so I can kind of see your whole area that you're working with, and then start the exam. So yeah, maybe do that first. Like hold it down, left, right, and then it's going to ask for it wants you to kind of scan the room a little bit. You just have to turn it slightly to the left and slightly to the right, and then it should be fine. I think it takes that pretty well. Oh, right, and then someone asked if they could upload it, if they could scan it on their printer and then upload it from their computer later. That's fine. You have, because it's separate. After you exit the exam, there's a separate area to upload it, and you have 5 minutes or so after you finish. I'll kind of see when you finish, when you have 5 or 6, 7, 8 minutes afterwards to upload those, to scan and upload, as long as it's reasonable, right? A reasonable amount of time afterwards to do that. So you can use your printer and scanner if you prefer. That's fine. Just get it uploaded, within 5 minutes, and it's all good. Okay, good deal. And you also know you need a T-table. You have to have a T-table. You have to have your magic formula sheet. You're going to need that. So you're going to need this. You're going to need this. You're going to need this also. Your magic formula sheet. And then you also get a half page of notes. And a TI calculator. You have to have a TI 83 or 84 calculator. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look and see where we are with this so far. Do you guys need a couple more minutes, or are you guys ready? Two people are ready. Anybody else ready? A couple more minutes. I'll give you guys a couple more minutes. Okay, so let's take a look at it. So when you typed it in, you should have gotten an X bar of 75,150 and an S of 6938 when you round it off. I'm just going to round it to, you need to have at least 3 sig figs. So if you round it to 6940, that'd be okay. But at least 3 sig figs, I went ahead and did 4. That's fine. If you did more, that's okay too. Alright, so then our H naught is, let's see, my claim is the starting salary is less than 79,500. So that's my claim, which means that my H naught should be that it equals 79,500. So H naught is mu equals 79,500. H1 would be my claim, mu is less than 79,500. So again, I'm going to use the word support here. My critical value, I have 8 items, so my degrees of freedom is going to be 8 minus 1, 7. My alpha is 0.10, so I'm going to hop over to the my handy dandy T-table. Alpha is one-tailed. This is really big. It needs to be this big. Sorry, I'm having some issues here. Alright, so alpha is one-tailed, 0.1 is my alpha, and I want degrees of freedom 7, right? So 1.415. It's negative because it's left-tailed, less than. So negative 1.415, that's my critical value. And then my test stat. So I'm going to take what I got from my sample, 75,150, minus what I expected to get from my claim, 79,500, divided by S over square root of n. So 6938 over square root of 8, and I got negative 1.773. So there's my test stat. It goes right in here. Was everybody able to get that? If you didn't get that, make sure you find the denominators separately and find the numerators separately and then divide them. You might be off a little bit, right? It should be like maybe like 1.69 or 1.76 to 1.78 is probably going to be okay in that kind of okay range as long as you show your work through here. But this is clearly in the guilty region, right? We do have enough evidence, so we're going to reject H naught. Reject H naught. So we do have enough evidence to support the claim that that nurses' starting salaries are less than 79,500. Questions on this one? Anyone?
I do have one question about the standard deviation. Is it better it needs to be a whole number, or it's okay to be in points? Like my number is like 6937.68.
That's fine.
But I thought
yeah, I said you can have more sig figs if you want, but you need to have at least 3, so that's fine. Yep.
Okay. That's all. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Yeah, ask them now because the exam's coming up. So these all.
For that same question, for the sig fig, for example, I did the test review that you posted online, and for the finding the n, the population pretty much. So if you use the original number, that's 2.576, your n, your population comes out like 50 people different from the final answer just because of the rounding. Would that affect it?
Off by 50 seems like, well, is it off by more than 1%? If you're off by more than 1%, then that seems a little bit questionable. If you do 3 sig figs. If it's 50 people and you're talking about tens of thousands of people, it's not a big deal. If we're talking about 1,000 people, then 50 is kind of a lot.
Yeah, it was like 16,590 as opposed to your answer that was 16,641.
Yeah, that's fine. Because that's less than 1%.
Okay.
That's okay. Yeah.
Okay. Just making sure.
Yeah. 50 makes a big difference if you're talking about like 900 people or 1,500 people. But if you're talking about 15,000 people, 50 is not that much.
Okay.
Yeah, that's okay. As long as you're showing your work. And again, I'm going to be, fairly Yes, this is, you guys are learning. This is not, this is an introductory class. So that's okay. Okay, thanks. Good questions. Any other questions before we move on?
Yeah, I'm kind of having a brain fart. So for H0 and H1, what distinguishes it for the mu and the p-value?
Right. So when it's mean, you're going to use mu. When it's a proportion, you're going to use p. Good question. That's a good question. So when it's a mean, you're going to use mu. This is a mean, right? Because it's average. So we're going to use x bar. We're going to use mu. If this is a proportion, we use p hat and we use p. So you would go here.
So then on number 30, we use p. It was a
Proportion.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's proportion.
Yeah.
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 That was my bad.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, like I said, today is the day to get all these questions out, because I guarantee you all the questions you guys have been asked before by other people. So it's the ones that people, trip up on. All right, let's take a look at number 6.
I have one question before you started.
Yeah.
You said, I just want to clarify that if the exact number is not on the degrees of freedom, you should round down.
Yes. Yep, absolutely. The exact numbers on the degrees of freedom you should round down.
What, and how much
So like,
is the closest?
so for example, there was one we had earlier that was like 34. Or even if it was like 38, do you see this, where I have here my t-table, goes from 30 to 40? I'd round down to 30.
Yeah.
Right? Or even if it was like here between, if you had 400, see down here? If you had 400, you still round down to 120. Use 120.
Oh, okay.
Because you would have enough to save 500.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Any other questions? These are all great. Okay, go ahead and take a few minutes to work on this one. A quick question. Is this a mean or a proportion problem? Do you see the word mean or average in there? You don't. However, what's my data? What's my data? Is my data yeses and nos, or is my data numbers?
Numbers.
Numbers. So this is one of the sneaky ones where it's a mean in disguise, because your data is numbers. I'm giving you data. So this is a mean, right? And how many samples are there?
Okay.
There's 10 people. The sample size is 10. How many times did I sample people? Twice. I took the same 10 people before, and I took the same people after. So these guys are connected. This is the same person before and after. This is the same person before and after. This is the same person before and after. So they're connected. This is a 2-sample, but it's a special one. This is a 2-sample dependent t-test, because the first one depends on how, it's got to be the same person. It can't be one person's before and someone else's after. They're matched up. So this is the one where you subtract, oops. Get here. Right, so this is the one where, my God, where you subtract them all, and then you run just a 1-sample t-test on their differences. So these are all the little d's here. So these are d's, the individual differences between them all. After you do that, then you no longer even care about the original data. And once you do that, then really, these guys here, you don't even care about these anymore, right? You can just ignore them, because all you care about is this data down here, and these guys all go away. You've taken 2 samples and you made them into 1 sample, because you only care about the differences. In other words, I take this pill how much is the drop in my hunger? That's all I care about, is my hunger drop, how much my hunger has changed. I don't care about what my hunger was before or after, just how much it's changed. All right, so then you're going to put this into your calculator, these numbers here, do a, put them into a list and do stat calc 1-bar stats on these numbers to get your X bar D and your SD. All right, so I'm going to let you guys go ahead and proceed. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look. So again, we know it's a mean. So we're going to use a t-table, hypothesis test. And it's two samples that are dependent. So we subtracted them, got these numbers here, ran a one sample, put them into your list, found your X bar of these Ds, and you got 1.7. You found your S of these Ds, and you got 1.494 or 1.49. Either one's fine, doesn't matter. At least 3 sig figs, at least. All right, so our H naught is that mu1 minus mu2 equals 0. So this one's something that people got a little confused about last class, so let's go over this really closely here. We're saying that does the pool do anything? In other words, does it change? So our claim is that somehow these mu's differ somehow. So you might say, well, isn't my H naught that the mu's are the same? Mu1 equals mu2? But here's the problem. We really want to put this only when it's dependent, because we're subtracting these guys. We're not running it on mu1 and mu2. You no longer have a mu1 and mu2 here. You have the difference. All you have here is these guys. This is your mu1s minus your mu2s. So really what you have is mu1 minus mu2 that you're looking at. If you leave it like this, then you're not going to have 0 here, and that 0 needs to drop down and be in here. You're going to try to put mu1 or mu2 into there, and then you're going to have a giant nightmare and get the completely wrong answer, which will lose you like 7 or 8 points on the exam. So you don't want to do that, right? 7 or 8 points, that's almost a whole grade. So the way to prevent that is to look at this as being, whenever it's two sample dependent, you're subtracting them and you're talking about mu d. Mu d equals 0. If you want, you can write it like this: mu1 minus mu2 equals 0. But you can't write it, don't write it like this: mu1 equals mu2. mu1 equals mu2 is the same thing as this, right? Because if they're the same, then when you subtract them, you should get 0. So in theory, you know it's the same thing, but you need to write it as mu1 minus mu2 on the left-hand side, because that's what we care about. We're looking at these little differences. And you will not get the same answer if you do it the other way. So if you kind of look at it, I'll show you what I'm talking about. So if there are two different samples, then you'd be popping stuff in here like this, right? Whatever you get from your X bar 1 and your X bar 2 divided by this. That's if they're independent. We're not doing that. We're just getting one sample, and we're doing this stuff up here to it. Because you are not going to find the X bar for this top one. And you're not going to find the X bar and the S for this bottom one. You're going to just subtract them and find the X bar and S of their subtracted values. These guys down here in orange. You're not going to find those separately. They don't matter separately. We care about, it's more important to see how they are when you subtract them and then find the S and the X bar of this part here. So you guys kind of follow me? We don't have 2 S's and 2 X bars. We only have 1 because we're subtracting them. You will not get the same answer. We're just going to do this to it down here. You only have 1. So that's why it's important to kind of write it like this. Otherwise, you're going to get confused, and you're going to start. If you write it like this, then it's going to be really easy to slip in and do X bar 1 minus X bar 2 down here instead of what you're supposed to be doing, which is this up here. Because again, remember, whatever's in your claim should be the number that goes here. 0's in your claim, it should go right down here. And then what you get from your sample, X bar 1, sorry, not X bar 1, because you're not going to have it, X bar D, 1.7 goes there. So your test stat's going to be X bar D, 1.7, these differences, minus 0 over S, this S you got here from these differences, over square root of n. So that's kind of the big differences between this one and a two-sample independent. Independent, there's no relationship, so you have to find these two things separately, which is not, you have to find the top x bar and S and the bottom x bar and S, which is not as useful as subtracting them because these have a relationship. So this gives you more information. Okay, so let's get back to step one. H naught, mu d equals 0. H1 would be that mu d does not equal 0 because we're claiming that does it do anything. And does it change it? Does it make it higher or lower? So this is higher or lower. Does it change? Is it not the same? So this is my claim, support. And I think I told you guys already, I will have at least one, I will have one problem on your exam where your claim will be H naught, which is, is or equals or is the same or remain or, doesn't change or is. And that's when your claim is H naught, and you can use the word reject then for your step, for your step down in step 5, because if H naught's your claim, then rejecting H naught rejects your claim. Here, H1's my claim, so rejecting H naught supports my claim. Okay. Yes, 5 point, right. Okay, so here's my critical value. Degrees of freedom is n minus 1, 9, alpha's 0.05. If I pull up my table, I will get, it's two-tailed, right? Because not equal to two-tailed. If I pull up my table, I will get 2.262. So again, it's going to be negative and positive and shade to the outside. So then your test stat, 3.60. If you got anywhere from 3.59 to 3.61, that's fine. As long as you, showed your work and your whatever you have backs up whatever you said. So then we put that in. It's clearly in the rejection region. Remember, you have to put this test stat into your picture to justify why you're rejecting H naught. So you're going to reject H naught because we had enough evidence it's guilty, and then, which means we do have enough evidence. There is enough evidence to, again, support, because H1's my claim, support claim that the diet pill does something. All right, questions on this one? Questions?
Yeah, could you just quickly go over one more time on the calculator we did to get the our data? It was stat.
Totally. So let me turn it on. So you're going to do stat, edit to get your list, and then you're going to put them in there. And on the exam, I'm just going to give you really easy numbers that you can just subtract by hand. It's super easy because honestly, it's easier to subtract these by hand than it is to put in the calculator and make a mistake. Right? I think. Well, I don't know. You have to write them down, so it might be harder because you have to. On the exam, I would literally write these down on your sheet. There's some things that I would write, and don't write down the problem. Don't write down all this other stuff. But I would write down the numbers. I'd write down these, and right below it, write down those, and then subtract them. That way, it's easier for you to not make a mistake. And if you made a mistake in copying, then I can see that when you turn in your sheet, and I'll give you credit for that because you just made a copying error. All right, so we got 2, 4, 2, 1, 3, negative 1. Don't forget negative numbers is this negative down here is how you get a negative number. Negative 1, 2, 1, 3, 0. All right, then double check and make sure you have them all correct. So 0, 1, 3, 2, negative 1, 3, and 2, 4, 2, 1. Good. So then you're going to go to stat, calc, 1 bar stats, and you want list 1. So second, and this one right here will give you the L. You can see the L1 in the corner right there, second L1. And you can see it pop up there. Enter, and that gives you your X bar and your S.
Okay, right on.
Yep. Okay. Any other questions? Questions? Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, Ms. Chang, so it's essentially a two-part question with, like, you're using the traditional mean hypothesis test equation on it.
It's not it's two samples, but you're going to make these two samples into one sample.
Okay,
Because
it's dependent upon
they're dependent. Yeah, so because they're dependent, you can subtract them and make them into one sample. So then they're no longer a two sample. Then they become just one sample because you're going to just ignore them and cross them out. So you no longer have two, you just have one.
Okay. Makes
So
sense.
that's the thing about the dependent is you're going to take two samples and make them into one sample because of the dependency. That's the beauty of it. You can do that. Okay,
Okay, cool.
great. Any other questions before we move on? Okay, let's go and do problem number 4. I'll give you a couple minutes to work on this one. Okay, so is this a mean or a proportion, guys? Mean, yep, you got the word average right there. Good. So it's going to be a t-table. Second question is this a hypothesis test or a confidence interval?
Confidence interval.
Yeah, it literally says confidence interval. If it says estimate or confidence interval, then it's a confidence interval problem. So confidence interval problem, I'll expect you to do the following. I'll expect you to find the best point estimate. Right, so find your best point estimate. I'll also expect you to find your margin of error, E. So look for your margin of error, E, and then find your confidence interval itself. So go ahead and work on those items. Again, that's your best point estimate. Don't spend a lot of time on that one because that's just it's super simple. If you don't know what it is, then don't worry about it. I'll show you. But find your margin of error, E, and find your confidence interval. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look at this one. So we said it was a confidence interval mean. So if you kind of look through here, my best point estimate is the one number, it's your x bar or your p hat. It's the one number that you get for your sample that's the best guess. So you find the word sample, right, random sample of 35, that's my n, blah, blah, blah. Average is 26,345, that's my x bar, right, because it's all from my sample, with a standard deviation of 3251, that's my s. So this is my stuff from my sample, 35 people, a mean of 26,345, and a s of 3251. This one up here, the 24,672, this one doesn't have an n. It has no sample size. So it can't be a sample. So this up here is my mu. That's my mu. Okay. So here, we're going to see if this mu is correct or not by creating a confidence interval. So we're going to use our best point estimate, 26,345. Margin of error is equal to the critical value times s over square root of n. So I need to find my critical value. All right, so 35 people, alpha is 99% confidence interval. So I'm going to bust out my super cool, I have it in here actually, that's all right, I'll load up here. T-table, and 99% confidence interval, that's this fifth one out here. And degrees of freedom, 34. So I slide down, and I don't have 34. I have 30 and I have 40. So I have to go down, I have to round down to 30. So when we were talking about that earlier with somebody else, round down to 30, and I get 2.750. That's my critical value. So 2.750. S is 3251, my n is 35, so I get 1511. More or less. You might be off by some decimals or something like that, but it should be, roughly that. Yes.
I have the one from the book, Miss Young, and it's 2.728.
Because it's more accurate. It's more accurate.
Yeah, there's more.
Yeah, you know what? If you can for the test, just use mine. Just use 30. Don't use the 30 to 40 because it'll throw me off if you have something different than everybody else has. Does that make sense? So for the exam, just use up to 30, but then from 30 to between 30 and 40, just use 30 for all those if you can. Okay. It would make my life a little bit easier when I grade them all. All right. Cool. Thanks. All right. So 1511. So that's my margin of error. Now my confidence interval is going to be my x bar plus or minus my error. So my x bar 26345 minus my error, minus 1511, and my x bar plus my error down here. So we're going to get, if we subtract that, we get 24,834, and if we add this, we get 27,856. So you can either write it this way with parentheses and a comma between them, or you could write it this way where you have this much is less than mu is less than the upper limit. You can do it either way. Either one's fine. If it's a proportion, then t would go inside of here. But since this is a mean, then mu goes inside there. Questions of this one? Questions, anybody? No one?
I have a question.
Yes.
We always round, will we put it in should we always round the error to like a full number?
No. Give me at least 3 sig figs.
Is it okay?
If you have decimals there, it's fine. Totally fine. No problem. Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, good deal. Any other questions? Yeah, I'm going to be a little lax upon the rounding this time. If you have more, if you have less, if you have too few rounding, then I might give you a hard time. But if you have more decimals, it's okay. If you only have 2 sig figs, that's kind of troublesome. Alright, so we did do one more problem last time. First of all, are there any questions people have about this one? Okay. So again, I do want to pop up to this one here. And again, remember this, you're taking 2 samples and making them into 1 sample. You have to realize when they're matched up like that, it's really a 2-sample dependent. This is what a 2-sample independent looks like. See how these are not matched up? There's just a bunch here and a bunch here. There's a group of them here, a group of them there, and they're not matched up. You know, one above next to each other, or side to side, or up and down from each other. This is a 2-sample independent. So then you'd find the x bar and s of this, you'd find the x bar and s of that, and then you do that 2-sample. You use this 2-sample one here. Right, so that's the 2-sample independent. People get messed up on this all the time, the independent versus the dependent. Again, they're not matched up. There's just a group of them here and a group of them there. And then let's do this problem here. Where see these guys are all matched up, right? So this is dependent. You're going to subtract them, and then you'll only have 1 sample to work with. People wanted, last time we worked on this one. You guys up for this one, or you guys have something else? Are there any other questions about just in general about the exam, or about any problems you want to go over on the study guide? If not, we'll do this one, but if you have something better to ask, then ask me that instead.
I have a question really quickly.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so I was wondering, I think you said we have till the 24th to turn in, like, all of the extra credit stuff in terms of, like,
just show them to me. Just come to my office hours and show them to me.
Okay, yeah.
But
after the 24th to do that?
You know, I'll probably relax that because people haven't been coming in, so I'll probably give you guys an extra week until May 1st. But I really need you guys to come to my office hours and do that.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so why don't you guys take a look at this one, and I do want to point out a few things with this problem first before we do that. Maybe. Sorry. Which is, the reason why I pointed it out was that this problem is a two-sample independent, right? So here we've got, oops. Oh, it's a little bit large. Hold on. So here we have two samples, but they're not a list of numbers. They're just I'm just giving you, here's the mean, here's the n, here's the mean, here's the standard deviation, here's the second n, here's the second mean, here's the second standard deviation. So here, there's no differences. So here you're definitely going to say, oh, mu1 is equal to mu2, and mu1 is, let's see, is less than. So less than, mu1 is less than mu2. So here, this is where they're independent. So you have two different mu's you're talking about. And you're going to have two different x bars and two different s's. Right? Because I've given you all these pieces. You can't make them into one. So that's why this one's a little bit different. So then in the formula, you're going to be using something like this where you take them and you subtract them. All right, so why don't I go ahead and give you guys this problem to work on, and we'll go over that one, unless people have something else they'd rather go over, which I'm happy to do a different problem instead. We have about 38 minutes left if you guys have questions. Any other questions? Any other one you'd rather do instead? Remember, all the solutions to these are posted on Canvas. Oh, and quick comment on those solutions. Oh, shoot. Sorry, hold on a second. I may give you, I may talk about p-values, I may use inverse norm. You don't have to use those, right? You can just use your t-table to find stuff. And inverse norm, so you don't need inverse norm, and you don't need to find the p-values, right? Except for, oh, that's a good thing, except for the extra credit. The extra credit, you will need to do that. So this is how you do that for extra credit. So you would go ahead and hit stat, test, and say, let's pick one we had. Let's go ahead and go through these real quick. So here's one. That one's more complicated. Let's go ahead and do, well, we can do this one. All right, so I want to know what the p-value is for this. I would do, it's a t-test, because I've made it into a one-sample test, right? So I don't think I have data. Maybe I do. I'm not sure if I have data. So I'm going to do stats because I know I have that. My mu naught, I'm saying is 0, right? My x bar, oh no, I do have it, is 1.7. My s is 1.494. My n is 10. Maybe it is. This might be the right one. And my mu is, I claim, so this one here is whatever your h1 is. Either your mu is not equal to, your mu is less than, or your mu is greater than. And I'm saying that my mu is not equal to. So I'm going to pick the not equal to one. So if you're over here, you're on this one. Oops. Then you have to arrow over to the one you want, and then hit enter, and then it'll be blinking on that one. It'll stay on that one, and it won't be. These ones won't be lit up. Then you hit calculate, It's really important you get that right, or else it's going to give you the wrong number here. So my p-value is 0.00577. That's really small. So I should definitely be rejecting H naught. And if you kind of look down here, we totally rejected H naught. You can see it right there. So that makes sense. And look at another one we did. Like this one here. With this one, I've got, again, stat test, and again, to means, it's going to be a t-test. And my data, go to stats. So if you're on data, arrow over so you're on stats. Unless you have, if you have all your data into a list, then you can leave it like this. But my data is not in a list. I don't know what's in my list. So I'm going to just go to stats because I'm more sure about that one. My mu naught here is 79,500. My X bar is 75,150. My S is 6938. My N is 8 of them, I believe. And my claim was less than. So I'm going to arrow over to this less than one. And I need to hit enter, so now it's going to be all dark on that one instead. Calculate. And you'll see my p-value is 0.059. So my alpha is 10%. So typically it's 5%, right? Alpha is usually 5% or less would be unusual. This time we're saying 10% or less is unusual. So since this is less than 10%, then it would be unusual and we should reject H naught. And if you look down here, we totally rejected H naught. Questions about this? You don't need to tell me whether you reject H naught or how the p-value compares to alpha. You just need to find the p-value for me. That's all I'm going to make you do. You guys are really quiet. All right, I'll show you one more. This is for a proportion now. So stat test, it's a proportion. So we're not going to use Z. We never use Z. We're not going to use T because that's for a mean. We're going to use the one sample Z test, number 5 down here. And let's see, my P naught is from here, so that's 0.25. My X is, how many did I have? I had 39 successes out of 125. So I can put those in there, and there's 125. And then my claim was greater than. See right here, H1. H1's greater than, so I'm going to go over to the greater than, hit enter on that. See, now that one's dark, and then calculate. And that's going to give me my p-value, 0.0547. So when alpha is 0.05, 0.0547 is not 0.05 or less. So here we should not have rejected H naught. And we did not. Do not reject H naught. Okay. Good. Everybody happy? Happy, joy. Questions? Yeah.
On this, the only two we're able to use is the t-test and then the prop z-test, correct?
So you always have to write these numbers in here. But in theory, you could use the other ones. The confidence interval is not going to help you very much because I'm always going to make you give me the margin of error. So it doesn't really help you except for to check your answers. In theory, though, you could totally use it to calculate the ones, and I actually would. So this next one we're doing, in fact, not that one, sorry. This one, I would actually use it to calculate this one here. So why don't we go ahead and do this one and use the calculator. So you have to write in the values you want, but use the calculator to actually calculate it. So why don't you guys go ahead and do this one, and I'll show you what I mean. We'll go through that. So again, this one is a mean, right, because we're talking about mean ages. So mean. And we have 2 samples, right? Random sample of 25, another random sample of 35. That's how you have 2 samples. Random sample of, another random sample of. So it's 2 sample mean, independent. Take a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes, and then we'll go over it. Or do you guys want 10 minutes? I'll check in about 6 or 7 minutes because it should take you a little while to do this one. Alright, I'm going to put the first part of this so you can check your answers, at least for the H0, H1, and your critical value. And you're going to want to note that the n, remember you have two n's, you have 25 and 35. You use a smaller one, 25 minus 1 to get your degrees of freedom. So you're going to use a smaller n, which is 25 minus 1, so your degrees of freedom is 24. That's how your book does it, so we're going to go with that. I'll kind of pull up your test stat so you can kind of see that also. Alright, so we'll take a look. So our test stat is our first x bar 1, 48.7 minus x bar 2, 55.3 over square root of s1 squared, so 6.8 squared over n1, 25, plus s2 squared, 3.2 squared over n2, 35. And so if you do all those things, you'll end up, again, work from the inside out. So this is how I'd recommend you do it instead. Write it all down. You have to show me your work, so you have to write it in like this. This is what I need. So in terms of your work, everything I've written here is what you need. You do not need to copy down the problem at all. Just show me all this stuff here. And then on your calculator, to calculate it, you can just do this. Everybody paying attention? Oops. Let me move this over here so it's not. Alright, so I'm going to do stat test. And it's two samples t-test, because remember, we don't use a z at all. Two sample t-test for my means, and I have statistics. So if you happen to be on data, you don't have these lists and things like that. You just need to arrow over to statistics. You're on statistics and hit enter, and watch it change. It'll change as soon as I hit this enter. Boom, now it gives me these instead. So here's my x bar 1, 48.7. S1 is 5.3. 6.8. 6.8. Not working. 6.8. And then my N1 is 25 people. My X bar 2 is 55.3. Oops. See, I mistyped that. It's really easy to mistype, so you got to make sure that you type correctly, or else I would get something completely wrong and have no idea. S2 is 3.2 and N2 is 35. So then double check your numbers, make sure they're all correct, because you do not want to be off by anything here. Alright, and then I'm saying my claim is less than, so I'm going to go to the less than one. I'm highlighted on there, even though it's solid over here, it's blinking here, I'm going to hit enter, and then I'll be where I want it to be. Arrow down, pooled no, I have no idea what pooled does, just make it no, just say no. No idea what pooled is, just leave it as no, and then hit calculate. And it gives me my test stat, negative 4.509. Negative 4.509. It also gives me a p-value. See, this p-value is 4.197. That does not mean my p-value is 4.197. 419%, that's totally impossible. Whenever you have a number here larger than 1, you darn well better have an e negative something over here. What that means is you're going to have 5 zeros, and then the 4197, and the decimal place goes after the first 0. So that's what that means. It means that you're going to end up with a p-value of p-value is 0.0004197, and the decimal place goes after the first 0 right there. That's what that means. Alright, good. You guys want me to show you that again, or are you guys all good? Again, that's stat, oops, what was that? Stat, test, two sample t-test, right, because it's just like a t-test, only it's two of them, so two sample t-tests, and then statistics, and then input your data here. Make sure that you pick the correct test, not equal to, whatever H1 is, not equal to, less than, or greater than, and then pooled, just leave it as no. And then you should have it. The other thing, like I think I mentioned before, make sure that when you use a negative number, that you use this negative to do the negative number. And when you're subtracting, use the subtraction symbol. Because some people made that mistake too, is that they use this for subtraction. This is for subtracting, this is for a negative number. All right, any other questions? All right, so we'll swing on down here. So here, obviously, we're going to reject H naught. It's totally in the rejection area, so we do have enough evidence. I don't think we finished it last class because we ran out of time. But we do have enough evidence to support the claim that the mean is that the salt players are less than the roulette players. Okay. Questions, or just, yeah, ask me questions. We've got 15 minutes. Any questions you want, bring it on. We can go over one, or you can ask me general questions or anything. What question is this on the study guide? I think it is question 3. This one's question 3.
Young, when you write the .0004197 on the calculator, it shows you the e to the -5. Does the 4 go on the base plate, or are there 5?
So the easiest thing to do is, when it's e -5, just put 5 zeros, and then put the 4 in after that. And then the decimal place goes after the first one. So I'll show you what after the first one. Yeah, because you still have to move the decimal place over. You still have that. So then you're moving it over 5 spots, right? So,
okay.
So decimal place, yeah, it goes after the first 0. Other questions?
I have a couple of questions. It was mainly from the Connect Math, the homework that was due Sunday.
Yeah.
Would it be easier, or can I share my screen so
I totally.
can show you exactly?
Yes. And a quick comment on the homework. Most of them were they're all greater than, I think, but on your exam they could be greater than, less than, or not equal to. It could be any of those. Fair game. Yeah, go ahead and share your screen. Oh, there we go.
Okay. Here for the critical value, I mean, I got it right, and I was able to do it, but we weren't given a confidence interval.
An alpha? Right, whenever alpha is not given, the default is 5%.
5%?
Mm-hmm. Because, here it is. It gives you right here, the alpha's 0.01, 0.10.
Okay, I didn't see.
So I'm sorry. Let me show you. It's right above the word part 1. See the word part 1 is?
Oh, okay. I see it now. Alright.
Yeah, they're being sneaky.
I don't know.
Slipping it in there.
Okay. And then another one with this homework. It happened to me twice, I think. To where, for example,
Alpha's 20%. Wow, that's weird. Okay.
not that one. So, for example, this one, it asks for the last sentence at 0.1 level significance, and it be concluded that the dog lost weight.
Right, so they're saying that the after is less than the before. So that really means that the before is greater than the after. So it's a little bit tricky.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was like,
Mine will be more straightforward than that. It won't be quite.
okay, yeah, 'cause I
Yeah.
kept getting it wrong.
Yeah.
The last thing.
Right. So yeah, it's a little bit confusing because it seems like lost should be less than. So you should say, so then the afterwards, I would have put the after before, after first and the before if you're gonna phrase it like that. But yeah, I know it's a little bit tricky. Mine will be more straightforward than that for sure. So the first one's less than the second one. If I say less. Cool. Good question. Thanks. Anybody else? No? All right, so we'll go ahead and call it here. Your